You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a church helps out a local nonprofit via scrapbooking.
Grab the coat when you walk out the door. After all, it is still February, but by the time we get to the afternoon, you guys see the people in short sleeve shirts. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a Wisconsin graduate student rallies together a community during a crisis in his home country. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The state of Kansas and Missouri announced they have reached a settlement from a lawsuit with opioid distributors. In Kansas, the state will receive $190 million. In Missouri, the state is receiving around $458 million. In each case, the money will be used to combat opioid addiction. Joplin fire crews respond to a house fire early Saturday morning in the Murfreesburg area. Just before 5, crews were alerted to a fire at this home at 910 West 5th near 5th and Connor. Firefighters reported heavy smoke and flames and called in a second alarm. Everyone was out of the home safely. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Well, February is Black History Month, but the George Washington Carver National Monument celebrates Black history year-round. Carver grew up during a time of segregation and was born during the Civil War. Despite this, he never treated anyone differently. So on Saturday, the National Monument hosted an interracial understanding workshop for attendees to reflect on where the country has been and where we are now.
They're going to be learning a little bit more about race relations within the United States during George Washington Carver's time and see how he would have had an understanding of race relations in his job, in his field, and how he was able to use the idea of coming together through soil conservation and discussing race.
The National Monument hopes attendees see that these lessons are applicable in everyday life. Members of an independent ministry in Joplin held a rally and support drive for the People's Convoy, making its way across the United States. The rally was held at 4 state trucks in Joplin near exit 4 on I-44. The group is wanting to join the truckers in the convoy, standing up to government overreach during the pandemic.
We don't know a great deal about the convoy. Our position is that we're Christians that are concerned with our freedom and wanting to remind those that we've elected that the Constitution is a document that's extremely important for the future of our children and grandchildren. So we're an independent ministry and would like to travel with them to be a support prayerfully and otherwise.
Williams says the ministry plans to travel with the convoy and support its cause. Located in Liberal, Missouri, TND Donkey Rescue is a local nonprofit organization that works to rescue and help neglected and abused donkeys in the area. But because they are a nonprofit, they rely on support from the community to keep the mission alive. So the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Frontenac, Kansas held a scrapbooking event to raise money and awareness for the rescue organization.
The animals that come in, they've been abused, neglected, abandoned. If you could meet the animals and see how truly sweet they are and the care that they need, that's why you do it.
The fundraising event continued into the weekend at Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Parish Hall in Frontenac. Well, the Toronto Zoo has a big announcement. Little Longlegs has landed. That's the name of a new healthy baby Messiah giraffe born there on Thursday. Messiah giraffes are native to East Africa, where they are an endangered species. The calf was able to stand for the first time just 90 minutes after it was born. Mother and baby are both doing well, and the young calf is nursing. Zookeepers don't know the gender yet, but we'll find out soon during the first well baby checkup. The zoo's giraffe house will be closed until he or she is ready to make a public debut.
What was it that you entertained us with so delightfully for the span of 2 weeks?
April's baby.
What animal was it?
It wasn't a giraffe?
I don't remember.
Oh, it was definitely a giraffe.
It was. I thought. Okay, I thought it was. I mean.
The sad thing is, I don't remember what they named the baby.
I
but
thought
the mom's
it was
name
a
was
giraffe.
April, and we watched April on her.
Right, because baby giraffes
camera.
are great. Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the New York Giants, he's often been called a baby giraffe when he escapes from the pocket and takes off down the field. People compare his running to a baby giraffe.
They don't call him Little Longlegs?
No, just because you really don't know what direction he may fall in. Yes, but no, that is great. Maybe next time we'll have a live shot. Because you did a wonderful job with that. You kept us updated consistently. All right, Tanya, glow cloud coming off the horizon. It's outside the mothership, 29 right now in Parsons, 32 in Monette. This is really interesting. We've seen Joplin fall about 5 degrees pre-sunrise, now down to 31. So it's definitely coat weather, but then again, it is the last day of February, and we're going to get a nice little bump up from our wind chills that right now sit in the 20s. A Skywatch storm tracker where we will not have to talk about travel conditions, tower cams, and what our roads look like the rest of the week. It's going to be absolutely delightful no matter what direction you may be traveling, and we're going to be able to make it up into the 60s later on this afternoon. You'll notice a little cloud cover that begins to work in. It won't be prolonged, and it's a dry air mass, everything that's hovering over us. So, and the fact that it moves in from the northwest, that's some dry Canadian air, not a whole lot of Gulf moisture that's able to seep up with those clouds, and very, very delightful overnight. Speaking of overnight, check out these overnight lows, well above the freezing point for the first week of March, with daily highs spanning from the high 60s into the low 70s. Looking at a little scattered rain Friday night into Saturday, nothing widespread, shouldn't be anything severe. And even the cold front, yeah, we got to talk about a cold front, but even the cold front from Saturday to Sunday only drops us back to the 50s, and that's higher than what we had for our average high all February. Tanya?
All right, well, up next, PHS Theater Department is back in our studio to talk more about recent accomplishments and what they have in store for us. And later, today is Rare Disease Day. We'll have the story of how one boy is set out to help others through his rare disease. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes may not improve your health and could cause a major problem in your mouth. A recent study by New York University College of Dentistry revealed e-cigarettes pose a risk of gum disease. The study said chemicals in e-cigarette vapors can change the oral microbial environment of the mouth while disrupting the balance of bacteria, leading to gum disease. Researchers found people who vaped had a different oral microbe environment than cigarette smokers and never smokers. Gum disease affects half of all U.S. adults over 30. For those who love eating last night's food, here's how to properly keep them to avoid foodborne illnesses. According to the USDA, leftovers need to be refrigerated within 2 hours of cooking. Perishable items left in a room for more than 2 hours need to be discarded. Cold, perishable foods need to be kept at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below and properly packaged. Foods can be kept refrigerated for up to 4 days and in some cases up to 4 months. Even though frozen leftovers are safe indefinitely, they can lose moisture when stored. CDC reports roughly 3,000 people die yearly from foodborne disease. Keep it safe. It's estimated up to 30 million Americans are living with a rare disease. One of the biggest challenges is getting an accurate diagnosis. On this Rare Disease Day, Bradley Blackburn shows us how modern technology finally found the answers for the family of a young boy.
90-year-old Keegan Batavio is a kind, active kid who works hard to overcome his struggles. When he was younger, his mom, Christy, says she knew something wasn't right.
All your milestones were delayed. And by the time he was 4, I mean, he was definitely delayed in speech and physical activities.
She reported her concerns to doctors, but did not get the right diagnosis until they saw geneticist Dr. Karen Grip. She used FDNA's Face-to-Gene app, which combines artificial intelligence and unique technology to detect rare diseases.
We can take pictures of patients, have the algorithm analyze the facial features, and provide suggestions of potentially matching diagnoses.
It was a matter of, I'm saying, 3 minutes we had a diagnosis.
FDNA's database contains thousands of patients' pictures, and the technology can identify up to 5,000 rare diseases.
It allows clinicians to think and consider diagnoses that we would not naturally consider. For example, because a condition is so rare that even a clinical geneticist like me has never seen a patient with it.
Keegan has Smith-Lemli-Opitz syndrome, a developmental disorder that can impact learning and behavior, affecting around 1 in 40,000 people.
What has that diagnosis meant for you and for Keegan?
It has given us somewhere to start.
Christy says even if the road to diagnosis is frustrating,
The sooner you can find out, the sooner you can get the services and help that your child needs.
parents shouldn't give up. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The Face2 Gene app is available for free to all pediatric doctors. Keegan's information will now be added to the FDNA's database to potentially help other kids. Well, the Ukrainian people are brave, and so are their cats. At least that's what one family in Lviv is saying. As Russian forces inch closer to the country's capital, many restaurants and businesses have closed their doors, but the owners of this cat cafe say they're not leaving Ukraine. 20 cats live at this family-owned business. Fluffy, hairless, and all shapes and sizes, these friendly felines could be seen taking naps, living out their 9 lives, as though Friday were just another day in Ukraine. Despite the ongoing threat from Russia, the owner and his wife say they will remain in Lviv because they love their country and they love their pets.
Is this a place where you just randomly take your cat?
No, I think
They take in strays?
it's for people who don't have pets so they can go relax amongst the company of
Do they
pets.
serve coffee?
Maybe.
Okay. These are questions that I don't have answers to. I was just curious about, you know.
I don't really see much going on with customers right now, but
Yeah.
it's probably not a
They're
fine
you
time
know,
to go
they're a
dining
tad
out
busy.
there. Yeah,
Tad busy.
so's that cat right there.
Daily Almanac for our last day of February 2022. Average high of 54. Average high for the entire month. It's going to end up being about 49 degrees. Not too bad whatsoever. Remember, that's for today individually, and we'll get above that easily. Not going to challenge any records. And there has been actually a dry month, all things considered, because remember, that snow doesn't have quite the impact that a rainstorm would. 31 degrees over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. We've seen the temperatures drop quite a bit here after the sun came up. Now, eventually, we're going to stabilize out. There's a little cloud cover that was trapped in from yesterday. But at the same point, grab a coat on the way out the door as our wind chills remain low to mid-20s. These are the actual temperatures, and we've been widespread this morning. As low as 23 is what we see in Miami and in Grove. And now, after Joplin comes off of its 36, looks like Chanute going to be one of our high points at 33. We'll go right at the freezing mark for both Monette and in Cassville. The cold front receding, and the indicator is the temperatures up to our north right here aren't in the negatives like they were in the middle of last week when that thing rolled in. Speaking of last week, no worries on the Skywatch storm tracker if you have to be on the road today. Travel conditions remain clear, calm, and just as good as can be, and they will for the rest of the week. Look at how we open up March right there. Sunny skies up around, if not above 70 degrees, and overnight lows hanging in the 40s. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Couple special guests in studio. We got permission. Maybe let them get to class just a little bit later, but they are absolutely swamped because they're part of the Pittsburgh High School Theater Department. Mallory Wommeldorf, Ella Rooms, I want to thank you both for your time this morning, and thank you for talking about your talents and what you bring to the 4-State Theater, because 250's Theater Department is second to none. Ella, I'd like to start with you because coming off of Mamma Mia, it's a quick turnaround just like that. Here in the 3rd week of April, we've got the Spring Repertory Theater play. And Mallory was telling us a little bit ago a complete shift that we've seen this year from a civic social issue to you're going to try something different. If maybe you could help us out and explain.
Yeah, of course. So this year we're planning on doing an improv show. We will pick a central theme and build a skeleton of scenes between some of our actors and participants. And then every night the show will be different. We will use our improv skills and dialogue around this topic, obviously. We've had an expert come in and help us with some improv. Wow. We played some games, learned some things about character building. I think it's going to be an interesting experience. We're not very experienced with improv, so hopefully that's something we can improve on.
Well, number one, it gains you the experience, and number two, you have the natural talent. That it's going to be a wonderful performance. And once again, that's on April the 21st and through the 3rd.
That's the Cabaret.
Oh, that's Cabaret.
21st through the 23rd, I think is correct.
Well,
yes.
I tell you what, Miss Mallory, seeing as how you brought that up, let's talk about what we've got coming up on April the 29th, because it is the Spring Cabaret Fundraiser, and you were explaining earlier how this is for the Drama Club in and of itself. But talk about the importance and what this means to those of you that are a member of the Drama Club.
So it's something we do every year. It's initially a fundraiser for those who got a superior rating on their individual event that they did at KTF. And that way they can go to ITF, which is International Thespian Festival, and they can perform their piece that they got a superior rating on. And it's very expensive, so it makes it a lot more affordable for students to be able to go and have that experience. But Cabaret is an opportunity to perform, whether you're a techie, whether you do theater on a regular basis, or whether you just want an opportunity to sing. And our theme is behind the music. So it's just putting together a piece, a monologue. It doesn't have to be musical theater, it can be a pop song, but something that resonates with you, something that means a lot to you. Typically, we are just putting on a mask. We are performing somebody else. We're putting on a coat and we're becoming another being anytime that we're on stage. And sometimes that can be tiring because you just want your audience to be able to see who you are. And so it's really, really exciting to be able to do that. But yeah.
Ella, it's amazing the turnaround that you have, because the past performances that you, Little Women, Into Macbeth, Into Breakfast with Santa, just coming off of Mamma Mia. As a performer, do you enjoy the constant turnaround? And now you're essentially trying to put two performances together between the cabaret and the repertoire theater. How difficult is that for you?
It is very difficult. I would say to anyone that wants to go into theater, having a good spreadsheet with a good schedule is very important. You know, and even trying to, our faculty makes it really easy to balance other school events. I know everyone involved in theater does choir or band or something else at school, and our faculty really tries to help us to be able to do whatever we want. So while you think that balancing doing about 4 or 5 shows a year is difficult, it is, but balancing 4 or 5 shows while balancing school and everything else is even more challenging. But the quick turnaround is really great for us, because we never have downtime where we're like, oh, I don't really want to get back into theater. So we're constantly doing something and constantly planning for the future, which is what makes this program so different than others.
And both of you just making the return trip back from state choir, am I correct in that?
Yes.
It goes to show you how multidimensional, multifaceted these wonderful students are. Madeline, I'm going to have you finish up and let us know how we can be a part of the cabaret and what we can do fundraising-wise.
So you can come to PHS on April 29th and donate. We'll have pass the bucket, pass the hat, and we'll also have donations at the door. And it's greatly appreciated. We really use all of that we can. All the funding is super important.
Ella, what are you more looking forward to, the improvisation work or the cabaret? Yeah, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, cabaret is really fun because I get to perform something that I normally wouldn't get to perform, but I'm really looking forward to the improv show because it's something I'd like to get better at personally.
And I bet you here, I bet number one, you break a leg when it happens on the 21st to the 23rd, and I bet in the future that you become an absolute star at it.
Thank you.
Ella Rooms, Mallory Wommeldorf, I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I know how busy you are, and thank you for bringing theater, culture, and the arts to the 4 states. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's 4-state hero, Jimmy Wills. Staff Sergeant Jimmy Wills served with the Army from 1952 to 1954. He served with 3 units, including the 24th Infantry Division in Korea. He was a forward observer for a 60mm mortar team as well. He earned several medals, including the Good Conduct Medal and the Korean Service Medal with 1 battle star. His hometown, Seneca, Missouri. We thank you, today's 4-state hero, Jimmy Wills. Hundreds of people gathered at the state capitol building in Wisconsin Saturday afternoon for a rally in support of Ukraine. Talil Mohilin reports.
At the state capitol, a sea of blue and yellow for Ukraine.
This is an important message to people who are there, that they are not alone, and people all over the world are standing with them.
UW grad student Yuri Vasyuk among hundreds standing up against Russian aggression.
They are hiding in bomb shelters. This is the least they can do.
Thousands of miles away from his home and family in Ukraine, For Kvasiuk, these past few days have been terrifying.
I couldn't do anything except just checking how do they feel, whether they are in safe place, if you can say that there is safe place now in Ukraine.
It's a feeling many at the rally can relate to.
My family and friends sending me videos of what is happening actually in Ukraine. And it's horrible. For me, it is horrible, it is terrifying, it's sad.
Peter Pisarev is Russian, with family in Ukraine, and he says Putin's actions don't represent the will of his people.
Russians never wanted war. It's sad what is happening now. It's terrifying. I want this war to stop.
But he's not sure of the way forward.
But I'm not a politician, I'm no soldier, I cannot help much.
Kvasiuk, too, is uncertain of what the future will hold, but he's placing his faith in his countrymen.
Ukrainian soldiers who are dying now, they're dying for a great cause. They're dying for their land and for the independence of their people.
With pride in his nation.
Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, a familiar face returns to the Star Trek universe, and we'll meet a horse that's creating a stir because of its name. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Joplin fire crews respond to a house fire early Saturday morning in the Murfreesburg area. Just before 5, crews were alerted to a fire at this home at 910 West 5th near 5th and Connor. Firefighters reported heavy smoke and flames and called in a second alarm. Everyone was out of the home safely. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Jim Inhofe, Oklahoma's U.S. Senator, announced he will step down before his 6-year term is up. The 87-year-old senator is the ranking Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He announced his decision Friday. The senator says he decided a few weeks ago to resign so he can spend time with his wife, Kay. Inhofe has held the seat since 1994, and his departure will trigger a special election for his replacement. Inhofe endorsed his chief of staff, Luke Holland, as his replacement. Holland says Inhofe did not attend a press event because the senator has a mild case of COVID. The state of Kansas and Missouri announced they have reached a settlement from a lawsuit with opioid distributors. In Kansas, the state will receive $190 million. In Missouri, the state is receiving around $458 million. In each case, the money will be used to combat opioid addiction. Russian troops continue to advance on Ukraine's capital despite the two nations agreeing to begin talks today. Meanwhile, Russia's nuclear force is on high alert due to what Vladimir Putin called aggressive statements from the U.S. and its allies. Laura Podesta is outside UN headquarters in New York, where the General Assembly will convene for an emergency session today.
Ukraine set no preconditions in accepting Russia's offer to hold talks today. Delegates from the two nations plan to meet in Belarus at an undisclosed location along the Ukrainian border. Despite the invitation, Russia showed no sign of ending the offensive. A massive convoy of Russian tanks and armored vehicles approached Kyiv last night. The capital city's mayor, former boxer Vitaly Klitschko, had a message for the invaders.
Go back home. You have nothing to find here.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to the sit-down but will not attend it. Zelensky said he doesn't expect any breakthroughs will emerge.
Here at the United Nations, diplomats are gathering for a rare emergency meeting of the General Assembly. They're expected to vote on a resolution calling for peace in Ukraine.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin responded to the growing sanctions and condemnation by putting his country's nuclear forces on high alert.
Nothing is off the table with this guy. He's willing to use whatever tools he can to intimidate Ukrainians and the world.
UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the White House is committed to helping Ukraine, but said the U.S. will not send any combat troops there. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin responded to the growing sanctions and condemnation by putting his country's nuclear forces on high alert. The General Assembly, all right. While Ukraine might seem far away to us, it hits closer to home for some. A local Joplin woman is one of these people. She worries for her family as Russia continues to invade her former home. Lilia Moose owns Adornable Embroidery and Alterations in Joplin. She moved to Joplin from Ukraine in 1998. Moose says she still has many friends and family members in Ukraine. She just wants Ukrainians and those in surrounding countries to have peace and a normal life.
But we're so far from here. It's not very easy to help. We're very far. We're just emotional, can support, but physically, they need army. They need stronger army. They need NATO there.
NATO has, for the first time, activated a military response force amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, the relationship between Ukraine and Russia goes back a long time. KOAM went to Missouri Southern to speak with Dr. Rebecca Shriver, an assistant professor of history. Shriver says a lot of it goes back to the days of the Soviet Union, when Russia controlled Ukraine. But when the Soviet Union fell, many Ukrainians were hopeful they would get their own independent nation.
When the Soviet Union starts to dissolve in the 1990s, they're one of the first to vote to form their own independent state. Over 90% of Ukrainians voted to break away from the Soviet Union and create their own state. So, you know, as you can see, there's this long history of Russia coming in and taking over the region and trying to suppress Ukrainian nationalist movements.
Dr. Shriver says Russian President Putin has expressed a desire to restore old imperial Russia. In the middle of war, love lives on. Urina Riva and Sviatoslav Forsin shared wedding vows inside this monastery as air raid sirens blared outside. Their home, Kyiv, is under attack. The couple planned to get married in May on a terrace overlooking the river, but when Russia attacked early Thursday morning, their plans changed. The May wedding they had dreamed of would now happen the same day Russian bombs were raining down on their country. With an uncertain future, Urina and Sviatoslav decided to hold on to what they know is certain, their love for each other. And now they head to the local Territorial Defense Center to join efforts to help defend their country. Urina says they know they could both die. They just wanted to be together.
Also of note with that couple, they actually spent their first night and morning together collecting rifles from around the neighborhood to distribute to the defense volunteers.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Just absolutely amazing, the stories that are coming out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Our weather trend topped out around 52, 53 yesterday at Joplin Regional Airport. And it just kind of stabilized right there. We got our pre-sunrise dip, so a whole lot of communities now below the freezing mark, but that's not going to last. And as a matter of fact, this will be the last time we talk about dropping below 32 for some time. These are actual temperatures, not wind chills, so I'd go ahead and grab the jacket on the way out. The wind's shifting, though, coming in from the south-southwest. We'll roll 5 to 10 miles per hour this morning. Won't be until this afternoon that we really pick up. And if you have to be on the road, no worries whatsoever, and no worries on a 7-day forecast that closes out February around 60 degrees and then opens up March up into the high 60s, low 70s. We talked about that freezing point. Look at those overnight lows hanging in the 40s and 50s. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. This morning on the KOAM News Now Insta poll and our Facebook page discussing support of Ukraine. As we all know, Russia has invaded Ukraine, and countries all over the European Union and NATO supporting Ukraine in this time of crisis, whether it be weapons, whether it be money. The only thing that has not been sent so far, actual troops. Back in the States, places are looking to make a difference. There's a restaurant in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina that's no longer serving Russian vodka nor Russian caught crab, but instead transitioning into Ukrainian-made foods. Our question for you this morning, do you think that NATO and the EU should support the Ukraine? Right now, an overwhelming 90% of you say yes, indeed. 6% say no, and then we've got 4% with neutral or no stance. You can connect to us each and every morning, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Hit us up on our Facebook page as well. Patrick Stewart and his new crew up against an old nemesis in the second season of Picard. Chris Warner will not give us a spoiler alert because we've got Rick Damigella with the story.
Do you recall what I said, Jean-Luc, when last we parted ways? The trial never ends.
Jean-Luc Picard faces off with Q in the new season of Picard.
Q went back in time and turned our
into a totalitarian nightmare.
Do you understand what this means? Time has been broken.
This marks the first time Patrick Stewart and John Delancey's characters have met since the finale of Star Trek The Next Generation in May of 1994.
I have been a fan and a friend of John Delancey from the very first moment that we met in Encounter at Farpoint, the pilot episode of Next Generation, when it all began. His threading himself into the 7 seasons as we went along was always delightful, not just for me, but for the whole ensemble of Star Trek people.
There's sort of a deliciousness to I don't want to say chew up the scenery, but a little bit along those lines, so we're just really in each other's faces, it's just fun. It's just fun.
Let's try this another way. The medical supplies you are attempting to steal are the property of the Fenris Rangers.
The crew Picard assembled in the first season is back in season 2.
This is such a rare gift to be able to carry a character for this much of her life. I mean, she didn't even start out human on Voyager. So literally everything, every aspect of humanity and emotion and everything is new to her on this journey.
Just when he thought he was out, they pulled him back in. So yes, back at Starfleet, sort of, not necessarily have found his place, but it's a big responsibility. So he's back in familiar territory.
The only way to heal our future is to go back and repair the past.
Beaming up in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
OAM crew, including Chris Warner and myself and our producer Ron, will come to your house and reenact the scene from Khan, where we'll have Chris yell Khan, and then I will play Spock saying, Jim, Jim. For those of you that get the reference, I thoroughly hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Friday, workers voted overwhelmingly in favor of Starbucks Workers United representing them at a Starbucks in Mesa, Arizona. It's the union's third win in its effort to organize the sector. They previously won the right to represent workers at 2 stores in Buffalo, New York. They lost the vote on another store but are challenging the results. The union has filed to hold elections at over 100 Starbucks stores across 26 states. That's only a fraction of the nearly 9,000 Starbucks-operated stores in the U.S. The economic sanctions enacted against Moscow are prompting long lines at Russian banks. People have been withdrawing their savings out of fear the sanctions will lead to a shortage of cash. Yesterday, the country's central bank issued a statement saying customers continue to have full access to all of their money at any time. The Bank of Russia also said it would continue to send cash where needed. FedEx and UPS suspended Russian-bound deliveries on Sunday. The two had already halted shipments into and out of Ukraine. UPS says packages en route to those countries will be returned to their senders if possible. Both companies say they will resume operations in Ukraine and Russia as soon as it's practical and safe to do so. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
The story behind a family who has made history in the state of Texas is the Hatley family becomes the first black family in the Lone Star State to race quarter horses. Now their story going viral on social media. Alexis Wainwright sat down with the Hatleys and shows us the motivation and meaning behind their newest horse and his name.
The Hatley family is getting a lot of recognition thanks to this horse.
His name is Black Lives Matter.
With all the police brutality and the awareness of the Black Lives Matter movement,
Black Lives Matter!
I think it was the best time ever to keep the Black Lives Matter movement going so it would never ever be forgotten about.
The Hatley family in Lancaster, Texas, a city 16 miles outside of Dallas, has a long history of racing horses, but more recently about this stallion here.
It has paid off. He's doing what we expected of him. We knew who he was when we laid eyes on him. There's something about a horse, you can see in a horse's eyes what a horse, what he's about. And he got that sparkle in his eye.
And they're off. Last month, they won their first race. But the best part?
To see his name printed out and to hear his name called, it was like, okay, we in business.
Black Lives Matter is up to win.
Hearing the name Black Lives Matter called over the intercom, a video of the moment going viral on TikTok.
The horse in the name is really set a tone for what's going on in the world, and people, they have to hear it. I mean, no matter everywhere you go, they see now on social media they have to hear it every day. They seeing it.
Thousands of people were in support of the success and the name, but there were also some negative comments.
They told us no, we couldn't do that. It was they didn't want to create any racial hostility, and it was wrong.
Even though somebody may not be happy with it, they still got to say the name. They got to say the name. And once you start saying something, it resonates on you.
But none of that has stopped the family from their mission.
He just bring awareness, and our purpose is we want every young black youth in the world to know that you can do anything.
Now, according to the Hatleys, they say it was God's plan that prompted them to name their horse Black Lives Matter, and he'll continue to race for awareness and equality. Let's take a live look outside of Television City on this, our last day of February 2022. And there we are over a gorgeous 7th and Range line. Still got some snow piles left in the parking lot there across the street. That'll be a distant memory as we get ready for our first full week of March and what's going to be delightful, if not warm, here by the middle of the week. Here's where we stand temperature-wise. Still going to want a coat as you walk outside, as we have plenty of communities still right at, if not under, the freezing mark. But the nice thing is if you look up to the north right there, that's an indicator, since those temperatures aren't too far from ours, that the cold front from last week now beginning to retreat. The Skywatch storm tracker, with no worries of any travel conditions, have to get up north of Kansas City and all the way into West Kansas there to even find some legitimate cloud cover. And it's dry. Really the only storm system that we have going on for this Monday morning is in the Northwest Pacific, and also too down at the Florida-Georgia state line. So here in the Midwest, highs in the high 50s, if not low 60s. Now we are going to see a little cloud cover begin to increase later on for the afternoon and evening hours, but then we clear out in time for Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning sunrise is going to be absolutely delightful as everything sprints down to the southeast right there. Big difference in our temperatures as well, especially when we consider our overnight lows. We no longer have to worry about the freezing mark. Daily highs, 70s for the first week of March. Those lows, that's better than what we had for the daily highs last week in the middle of that cold front with the snow, freezing ice, and rain. Now, speaking of that, Friday night into Saturday, little precip. But if it's that warm, it'll stay simply as rain, and a miniature cold front on Sunday, but we're still in the 50s. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has ordered his nuclear forces on high alert, and Russian troops are pushing closer to Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv. Russia has claimed its troops are only targeting Ukrainian military facilities, but Ukrainian officials say civilians have been killed. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed to meet with a Russian delegation for peace talks. United Nations Security Council has voted to hold an emergency session of the 193-member General Assembly today on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. UN reports nearly 400,000 people have fled Ukraine, most of them women and children. U.S. officials are urging American citizens in Russia to think about leaving the country immediately. Sunday, the European Union and Canada closed its airspace to Russian airlines. Aviation experts say the U.S. is under pressure to do the same. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Partly sunny skies. It's a great looking morning. That cloud cover is going to roll in later this morning through the afternoon, but it's dry. And it's really not going to slow us from warming up into the low 60s. Great end of February, and wonderful beginning to March as well, as we'll have additional sunshine all the way from Tuesday through really Friday. Look at these temperatures that we're going to be able to throw up during our afternoons. Throw some 70s in there for good measure. We deserve it coming off of last week. Next shot for a little rain going to be Friday night into Saturday morning.
Well, your go-to password might not be so secure, and that's according to a list of the most common passwords leaked on the dark web. According to a recent report by the security firm Lookout, the list of 20 passcodes included those with sequential letters and numbers. The company says 80% of people's emails are leaked on the dark web. Among the most common, the word password, I love you, default, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I might have too many ones there. Well, if yours are any of these, it's strongly recommended that you change it now.
This dude over here's got it figured out. That's why mine is I love you password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about that?
Of course. Now you have to change it. You just told everybody.
Thanks for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.